Welcome everyone this evening. Thank you for coming. Just a brief announcement before we proceed. Try to remember these next coming days. We have many services. We have some special speakers. Try to participate as much as you can. Of course, it's the feast day of our church. It's Greek Independence Day celebration. For Saturday, please go on and register so we can get the right amount of food. There is no charge for that meal, but it is catered. So we do have to pay per person. So we'd like to know exactly how many people are coming. So try to do your best, spread the word on that for us. They can go to the website and register there. And now I'd like to invite Brittney forward. Brittney, please come on up. Brittney is the first of 4 wonderful young women from our community. And, you know, we all have our story about the church. Sometimes we come to the church and to our faith different ways, and we have different experiences, and but it's all beneficial for us to hear these kind of things so that we can also grow in our spiritual lives. So Brittney, welcome you. Please come on up, and God bless you. Stand close enough like this to this one. Sorry. There you go.
So much adjusting. Okay. Well, hi everyone. My name is Brittney, Brittney Thomas, and just want to start out by saying I am so honored to have this opportunity to come speak with y'all tonight. I never thought I would do anything like this because you will hear shortly, my journey to Orthodoxy was not a straight and narrow path. So this is a big deal for me, and I'm just so excited to be here with y'all tonight. And thank you for hanging around to hear me talk about my life. This is very cool. I would also like to give a very special shout out to somebody who drove all the way down here from Charlotte to see me. That's my Nuno. Raise your hand. Yeah. He's the best. Really someone who has guided me spiritually and in every possible way, like probably the most influential person in my life, more than he knows. So thank you for coming. This is very cool. So in order to know kind of where I am, I think it's fair to tell you kind of where I've been. So I grew up in South Carolina, itty bitty middle of nowhere, South Carolina, if you cannot tell by my accent. So grew up kind of out there, but you know, good times. And I grew up in a lot of different churches, which again, I'll come back to it at the end. It'll all come together, I promise. I practiced. So I was baptized Episcopalian, and that's where I spent really my childhood up until I was 9 or 10, and loved that church. My mom still is to this day an active member of that church, works with the youth, just does a lot of great things for that community. And I loved my time there, but I was a kid. You know, when you're a kid, you don't really question much. You do what your parents do. You go where they go, and you do all those things. So good times, can't complain. You know, got the t-shirt, came back, all good. And then my parents got divorced. And let me just say, as far as divorces go, my parents had the most amicable divorce of all time. Like when they came and told my brother and me that they were getting divorced, I was like, you're mistaken. You get a law. This is not correct. So anyway, they got divorced. It's good. And then my dad, kind of understandably so, wanted to explore a new church family for himself. So then I was Presbyterian. Did not know anything about being Presbyterian, but I was like, yeah, this is cool. You know, communion's different. It's grape juice. That's fun. Rock on. So then Presbyterian for several years. And that's the church that kind of really was very formative for me in my faith, because I was a teenager. You know, that's when you start kind of questioning things and you start wondering about what you actually believe and if things are different than what you've been told. So went there up until I was in my early 20s, and now my parents were Methodist, so good for them. I'm not, clearly. So don't really count that among my experiences, but you know, they're happy and that's great. But as you can probably ascertain by all that, I never really felt like I had solid answers of my own. I kind of always felt like, you know, I've learned all these different things. I've heard all these different things from different places and different people, and everybody sounds legit and sounds reputable. So where does that leave me? What do I actually believe? And, you know, I was in college, and as we all know, when you go to college, that's when you really are finding yourself and doing all kinds of things. So I was doing that anyway. And then in 2013, I met my now husband, George. And I will spare you the story of how we met. He was very nervous about me talking tonight. He made me get rid of all my jokes, which I know, like, it's y'all's loss, honestly. But I will spare you the story of how we met. But if you ask me later, I will tell you because it's very good. But anyway, so we meet, and I knew pretty early on that George was different than I was. And keep in mind, little bitty middle of nowhere, South Carolina. I had never met an Orthodox person. I did not know this was a church. Like, I did not know Orthodoxy was a church. Had no idea. I never met a Greek person. No idea at all. So we meet, and he makes it very clear early on that he is Orthodox. And I was like, that's great. I am a vegetarian. Thank you for that information. So he makes it very clear early on that if we are going to end up together and get married and have a life together, that the church was important to him and that he wanted me to be a part of it. And I don't know if all women are like this. I know that I am like this. I kind of thought, like, he'll forget about that. I'll change his mind. No worries. Because again, knew nothing about Orthodoxy. Had no idea what he was asking of me. So I just kind of said, we'll come back to that later. Put a pin in it. We'll revisit it later time. So we continue to date. We fall in love. We, go through all the things that couples go through in our many years of being together. And then we get engaged, which was very exciting. And then it comes up and he's like, hey, I really think that we should talk about you joining the church. And I said, hey, I really think you should leave me alone and mind your business. And, he said, no, thank you. We do need to have this conversation. And I said, okay, fine. And all he ever asked of me was to keep an open mind. And you will soon learn that I did not do that. So I go to a church in Athens, and it's actually right outside of Athens. And I go to the Inquirers class one evening. And I thought I was going in with an open mind. In retrospect, hindsight's 2020, not at all. But the theme of that particular class, the first night that I went, was about communion and how if you are not an Orthodox Christian, you can't partake in communion for reasons that I now understand. But at the time, I was furious because if you prepared for my talk this evening at all, it's all about your ego and how I had to really reevaluate that and kind of learn how that fits in with me now. And I got so in my head about the communion thing in particular. And I was like, well, that's rude. Who would not want me to take communion? I'm so cool. I'm so great. Everybody likes me. Like, how rude. So, I kind of shut down during the rest of the class. Did not listen to anything else the priest said. I'm sure it was great. I just was not paying attention because I was so mad. And so then I go home and George goes, how was it? And I was like, it was fine, but I do not think I will be joining the church. But thank you for your consideration. And again, I was like, he'll forget about it. I'll change his mind. Not too worried about it right now. He clearly did not think that. So more time goes by. We're planning our wedding, talking about our future, planning out our lives. And again, it's bound to come up at some point your whole life. So it comes up again. He says, I really think that we need to talk about this. Like, I want us to be on the same page with our marriage. Like, our union is important. We have to be one. And I said, okay, I'll try again. So I come here to the cathedral and meet with a member of the church and had some conversations and, felt a little better about it. I felt like I was going into it with a little bit more of an open mind, but I still was so not ready. Like, I was not mentally ready, spiritually ready. I wasn't mature enough, which is big for me to admit, but I was not mature enough to make that choice and to kind of relegate who I thought I was with who I knew I had to be his wife, if that makes sense. So, we said, again, I was like, I'm just not ready. We'll talk about it. I don't know what's going to happen. And George said, okay, great. Again, put a pin in it, come back to it later. So more time goes by. Our wedding date is approaching. We got married in October 2020, by the way. We had a COVID wedding. It was great. It's awesome. Highly recommend. So much cheaper than it could have been. So more time goes by. And again, it comes up and George is like, listen, I really want us to both be members of the same church. And I said, okay, I'll try again. So I come to the catechumen classes and we went to them together, which I highly recommend. I really, really think that in addition to the other premarital things that we did, really cemented our marriage in what it is. And it was very cool for both of us. I was coming from, again, a perspective of knowing basically nothing about Orthodoxy, and George has been Orthodox his whole life. So it was great for us. It let us have a lot of cool conversations and really kind of built that foundation for the two of us, which was very, very cool. So I go through the catechumen classes and it's time to schedule my chrismation ceremony. And y'all know that saying, again, this might be a South Carolina thing. I don't know if y'all know about this, but I've heard this saying my whole life about, no matter where you go, there you are. Y'all ever heard that before? So, shocking. Okay, of course y'all would know it anyway. So again, finished my catechumen classes. It's time for chrismation. And I'm like, oh man, I'm not feeling good about this. I am just not ready. I don't feel like I know who I am within the church. I feel like I don't know myself, just all kinds of things happening, firing off in my brain. And, we're friends now, all of us here, all my friends. And I feel like I can be honest with you. I kind of came to a point where I was like, well, it'll be a means to an end. I want to marry this man. If this is what I have to do, whatever. I'm sure people go through chrismation without, the pure intents of their heart. Obviously no one does. But at the time I was like, I'm sure no one will notice that I'm not into it. They'll do it for me. It's okay. Don't recommend that. It's not good for your spirit or your soul. So I believe God comes to you in multitudes of different ways. And the way that he came to me and really kind of helped me connect the dots, which took, I guess, 5 years at that point, was one day I was talking to a friend and we were talking about the wedding, because when you're engaged, that's all you do is talk about your wedding. It takes over your whole life. So we're talking about the wedding, chit-chatting, whatever. And she says, oh, so when are you guys going to have kids? And I was like, well, I was planning on sometime after the wedding. Thank you for asking. Weird question. And she was like, oh, just chit-chatting, girl talk, whatever. And she goes, well, what do you want to name your kids? And I instantly, without even thinking, pulled out the baby names that I picked out when I was, 12 years old. And it kind of hit me like a truck, where I thought, wow, I didn't even think about what George wants to name our kids. Like, that never even occurred to me. And it kind of was like a waterfall effect, because I was like, oh, okay, wait. So what I'm hearing from my own brain is that I just came up with this huge decision without talking to the man that's going to be my husband. And then it just suddenly clicked. And I was like, oh, wow, that's what this whole thing is. Me kind of refusing to accept the church is very divisive. And then, my friend's sitting there and she's like, are you okay? Do you need some water? And I was like, hold on, I'm having a moment. I think something's happening. I'm having an epiphany. You just need to sit down. And she's like, okay. So it all just kind of came rushing to me where, my whole life, I kind of wish that my parents had stayed married. Don't get me wrong. My step parents are amazing. I have a beautiful life. I had a great childhood, but, I think every kid who has parents who get divorced, kind of some part of you wishes like they stayed together. And I was like, wow, I spent my whole life in a divisive environment, wishing it was unified. And I'm dividing my own environment by not even giving it a chance. And then I really realized in that moment that, oh my gosh, there's nothing wrong with me. The church wants me. I'm the one who has been rejecting it. And so after many more, awkward moments of my friends sitting there staring at me, and more thoughts of me kind of battling with myself and wrestling with my ego and the fact that I'd kind of been a jerk for a long time. And anyway, lots of things like that. I finally decided, like, okay, I'm gonna give it a shot. I'm gonna learn a little bit more about it. I'm gonna think about it. I'm gonna pray about it. And so I did that for a while. And then in March 2020, almost exactly to the day, I think it was March 21st, 2020, I had my chrismation ceremony, which literally cannot tell you if you have not gone through that. It was probably the most profound moment of my life, because I don't think I've ever felt quite so at peace with my spirit. I just felt finally like I'd found a place where I could be me, and a place where I could be safe. And it was very, very special to me. And I still think about it very often. And yeah, and now here we are 2 years later, and I'm getting to share my story with all of y'all, which is so cool. And I do finally feel like I've found my church home, and I feel like I've kind of found those answers and found a solid place where I can land after many years of not really knowing where to call home. So that's it. And thank you so much for letting me talk to you. This was so fun.
Any questions?
No Q&A.
Bruce, can we hear some of the outtakes?
Oh, my jokes?
Jokes?
No, you may not. I would be in big trouble.
Really?
Yeah, I'll tell you later.
We'll stop the recording. Does anybody have any questions for Brittney?
Oh, they're really insecure.
Here's one back here, I think.
Yes, hi.
So it sounds like your husband was pretty patient through this process, but did he ever say, I don't know, we shouldn't go through this?
Can you leave? Not exact, but we had one big fight about it. I think it was after Easter, Good Friday. And
But of course, because good time. Yeah,
it's fine. We had one big kind of knockdown drag out, but he is very patient. I give him a lot of, because it's fun, but he's a good boy. But yeah, no, after this Good Friday service, I had like a big kind of block with myself, and I was like, I cannot do this. I don't know what they're saying, George. I don't understand, and whatever. And we had a moment where we were like, I don't know if we should get married. And obviously we did, it worked out. But yeah, he was very patient through all of it and very supportive, but also did not forget about what he wanted, clearly, and did not, he never kind of gave up on me. Like, we talked sometimes, and he said before, like, he saw what our marriage could be, and he saw that it would be a good fit for me. So he supported me even when I did not think to support myself. So yes, very patient, very patient. He's a good boy. So yeah.
Anyone else?
How did you deal with the language issues? Because I gather that's what you kind of experienced in the Good Friday service.
Yeah.
You two just now.
Yeah, well, I appreciate all the English. So like, please always do that, because I do not speak, I only speak the bad words in Greek, which obviously has no place here. So honestly, I just listened. I mean, I listened to all of it. I do, I promise. But I just read along with it, and I can pick up on more of it now, having been more faithful and coming more often to church. So yeah, I mean, at first it was very, again, me just being like, reject, no, that's weird and unfamiliar. I don't speak Greek. How can they ask this of me? And true story, I really thought at first, when we first started talking about that, I was going to have to learn Greek, which was obviously another big obstacle in my way. I was like, I can't do that. Oh, sorry, I have to live here. I can't address your questions. You have to live here.
No, it's like,
But yeah, I mean, I'm definitely still learning and definitely still kind of trying to grasp the language, but definitely just, taking it at my own pace, not feeling like I have to rush it, which is very, very cool, because it's a lot. So yeah.
Bethany?
I can't see you.
Speak Greek either, so, it's just, we don't understand half the English, so.
You said about it.
We're not having all the English, we understand. Question, you said, was your first experience of the Orthodox faith the inquiry class, or had you been to liturgy or go to liturgy very much?
I've been to liturgy maybe like 2 or 3 times, so not a whole lot. My first kind of, I guess, experience really talking to, I mean, we had talked about it. George Orthodox, his parents are Orthodox, everyone's Orthodox. But my first experience kind of getting up close and personal with it was that inquirer's class. So I'd been to liturgy a few times before, but, not really enough to really understand what's happening at all. So a few times, but not anything crazy.
Costa?
Hey, Brittney, thank you again for being
Oh,
here tonight.
thank you for listening.
And I'm sorry, I've never met you personally.
That's okay.
I apologize.
You're my friend now, so that's
No,
okay.
but I want to ask this question because, being a cradle Orthodox myself, unfortunately, like this too. Did you feel welcome when you first came to our cathedral? I'm just curious because I like to get that feedback.
Yeah.
We should get that.
Yeah, that's
Great answer.
That's a great question. I would say,
We're friends now.
And we're friends now, yeah. If you've learned nothing else about me, I'm like honest too much. I would say that if I had been more welcoming and more receptive to the idea of Orthodoxy as a whole, that I would have felt very welcomed. I made myself feel unwelcome because I made such a point of being like, oh, I'm so different than everyone else here. I'm other. I remember my hair was blonde the first time I came here, which was awful. I will never do that again. Dad's upset about that because he really wants me to dye my hair blonde. But I was like, I'm going to be the only blonde person in there. Everyone else is going to have dark hair and be tan. Obviously, that's not the case. Yeah. Right. So I definitely think in hindsight, I think that air was there and the nature of being welcomed was there. I don't think that I was open to feeling it. But as I kind of came more often, and honestly, especially in the catechumen classes, I really felt very welcomed there because it was an environment where everybody was kind of going through the same thing. So to succinctly answer your question, yes, very welcoming environment, community. I wish that I had been nicer, but yes, I wish I'd been better.
Anyone else?
Awesome. Well, thank y'all so much. For me,
Yeah, for you. Before we give you this little gift, I wanted to just tell you how important it is for us to hear your journey. And I really mean that. I was like everyone, I was paying attention. I wanted to hear what you had to say because it means a lot to us to be able to share our faith in a way that it's not so intimidating. And we still have a lot of work to do, I can hear.
no,
But I
not the theme.
but I would say that we do offer also post-marital counseling if after the talk. No.
I'll call you when we get home. We'll see how
And
it
and the other thing too is that we need to hear, something like, for example, that when where you were told you couldn't receive communion, that is one area that I would say is the hardest one for us to describe or tell someone, because in the beginning you really don't have the Orthodox background to understand it at all. It's really difficult, and even if you understand the concept, it still doesn't make you feel better. So that's one area that is difficult for all of us, that even someone who teaches someone to offer something. But I want to say that we're also each time someone does embrace the faith, the church rejoices. It's just another wonderful thing, a blessing, and it's an honor for us, really. And so tonight, Father and I, on behalf of the Cathedral, want to offer this holy icon of the Annunciation, which is the feast of our church. Oh, sorry. Was it too high? I was lifting the gospel book.
It felt right, yeah.
And it is actually the unique one of the Cathedral, because it has our cathedral in the background. And so we would love you to have this, you and George. You can share with George, by the way.
Thank you so much. We'll see.
So God bless you.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, well, God bless you. Thank you. See what we have to offer these wonderful people in our parish family. And the growth of our parish, of course, is just that. It's when others join the Orthodox faith. And I want to tell you, Brittney, also that a lot of times people will say, can you make me Greek? And I say, short of a blood transfusion, we really can't make you Greek, but we can make you Orthodox, right? We can help you become Orthodox. So keep that in mind. And the other thing I want to tell George, you did the right thing early in the relationship that you spoke about. This comes up usually early in a relationship. Some people ignore it, some people talk about it, but you actually made yourself clear that this was important to you. And that's set the stage, even though it was not an easy journey, like, snapping your fingers, and Brittney just said, yes, I'll become Orthodox. But instead, she really took her time and put the effort forth, because Orthodoxy requires a personal struggle, an effort. And sometimes the concepts we don't even understand, because honestly, I don't care how long maybe we grew up in the faith, it doesn't matter. There are things we will never understand completely, never. and that's okay. That's the beauty of Orthodoxy. And also the experiential part, and that's why that one question about coming to worship is so critical, because you can learn theology, anyone can learn the great theology of the church, but if we don't worship, if we don't live the theology, you know, it's just a beautiful intellectual exercise, but it has to be here and here. It takes both. So like I said, thank you so much for what you've offered us here in the parish family. We look forward to getting to know you better. I do want to say that people here, the parishioners, don't know that you helped prepare our Goyans for the Winter Youth Rally Bible Bowl, which we appreciated very much, and they loved you. That job now is for life, by the way. Well, you didn't see the contract yet, but we'll give it to you. And in other ways, I'm sure you and George will serve the community and help out and offer your gifts and talents. So God bless you. Thank you. Okay, we can have a closing prayer. Glory to the Father, and to the Son, and to the Holy Spirit, now and forever, and to the ages of ages. Amen.
Lord have mercy, Lord have mercy, Lord have mercy, Holy Father, thank you for blessing.
Christ our God, we ask you to bless us this evening, and we thank you for our speaker, Brittney Anastasia, who opened her heart to us this evening about her faith and her journey. And we ask you to bless her family and everyone here this evening, and bless the remains of the food this evening and spread it throughout the world to those in need. For you are holy now and forever, and to the ages of ages. Amen. God bless you all. See you these next few days, right?